Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corkin Entertainment Show today. A very special episode today. And it's actually the very first two-parter that we've ever done because I've had the immense honor of interviewing Christian Potenza, who you guys know from 16, Total Drama, and he's giving me the exclusive interview on what he's been up to these last few years. And so we decided, as we initially planned to do this as a regular Tuesday episode, but the more we started talking about it, it was like, nah, this will work much better as an exclusive, very special episode to release on a Thursday. We'll be back to our regular podcast on Tuesday. You can also check out the video versions on YouTube as well. And also, due to the episode length and everything, and we were unable to include what is known as the Freedom Forgers, which is, of course, Christian's new endeavor. We had some of them on, but we are going to be uploading that video to our YouTube channel at Corkin Entertainment. So definitely be sure to check that out. And without further ado, guys, enjoy this very special episode today. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corkin Entertainment Show. I am your host, Frankie Corcoran. And so today, you guys probably are listening to the podcast how you normally listen to the podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. But for this very special episode, by the way, you guys are probably wondering, Frankie, it's not Tuesday. Why are you uploading today? Well, that's because we got a very special edition of the Corkin Entertainment Show today. And why is it a special episode? Because I have a very special guest who
The following podcast is being performed by an animated host. Do not try any of what you see here. Seriously, this Frankie guy will mess you up. McLean is in the house. Kind of.
Well, I guess there's all the introduction you need, guys. Christian Potenza, also known as, of course, Chris McLean, Jude Lisowski, and yeah, he just did the introduction for me. He's my new host now. So guys, watch the whole episode, whether you're listening to it. I'd say watch this one on YouTube. But this is a big deal, guys, and just stay tuned. You're gonna get full disclosure. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I am your host, Frankie Corcoran, and today, of course, we're here on a Thursday. And why are we here on a Thursday? Well, in case you didn't listen to the intro, that's because we got a very special guest who stole the introduction for me, so I didn't have to do any introducing. You guys know him from, of course, Total Drama. He played someone who I say is probably the best villain on animated television, Chris McLean. Also, one of the most laid-back dudes on 16, Jude Lisowski. We have Christian Potenza. Christian, what's going on?
A lot of keeping it real, buddy. A lot of keeping it real. Underneath this 51-year-old rock star facade is pure kung fu, buddy. Pure kung fu. I want to thank you for reaching out, because I haven't done an interview since way even before COVID. And I've been sort of, like COVID during the lockdown, like it changed. We all got smacked around like pool balls. Everybody's life got affected. Even the people's, like myself and several others that had very public lives, or because of what we did, our lives were on a personal level were completely changed. And yeah, the whole plate tectonic shift in the landscape of Christian Potenza and what he was doing before, during, and after what we all went through, no one knows about. And everyone's curious. There's a lot of things floating around right now. And I was like, you know what? I think it's about time I just sort of came out and just sort of said, here's what really happened, everyone. And, when you reached out saying, hey, I'd like to do an interview, I was like, all right, you know what? I think it's time. I think it's time. I think the people got to know. And I want to come out of hermit mode because I have been like everybody else, I've been reinventing myself and looking for the future because everyone was like, oh man, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. And I was like, normal? It's not going back to anything close to what we thought. The whole thing was broken before. That's why we had to have a reset. And you can have your tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, which I don't mind entertaining because they seem to make a lot more sense when there's a lot of unanswered questions. But, everything's different. Like lately, it's like one big Mandela effect for everybody. We're all just scratching our heads going, is this real life? Like, is this happening? I mean, my daughter's birthday is on June 1st. And for every one of her birthdays, because as a proud father, I have videotaped and documented every breathing moment of my daughter's life ever since she just, joined the party, right? And so every year I put together a sizzle reel, of stuff for her, a slideshow of like the past birthday memories, and we just keep adding on. So this year, or like a few years ago, or on her 18th birthday, actually, she just turned 19 this year, and she's turning 20 this year. And when she turned 18, I made a sizzle reel, and I was looking at it and I was like, usually I take pride in like, look at our life and all the crazy adventures we went on, kiddo. Like, man, and look at us now. Look at us then. Look at us now. Like, wow, And I remember looking at stuff before COVID because I'm piecing it together and I'm looking at it going, I don't even relate to that guy.
That's just a whole
And that
different,
period in my life. It's like I'm looking at somebody else's, social media platform or profile. I was just like, what? I don't even like that's me. And I was like,
That was Tristan Potenza. You're Christian. That was Tristan. That's your like twin.
Or actually, well, see, my real name is Anthony.
Or Anthony. Yes, that's right. Anthony Christian.
Anthony
It even
Christian
says right
Potenza.
here on Zoom.
It says that because something happened during the last little bit too, where IMDb changed my name to Anthony Christian Potenza. And I was like, there's so much shit going on about me and my name and just these like things going on with people talking about me in not the most best way. And I'm all like, oh, so I watched this whole thing change and transform and like a salad spinner just of my whole universe. And so it's quite an interesting story, that started way before COVID, before we all did it. But like the thing is, when I was making those pictures, I was looking at myself going, I don't relate. And I asked my daughter, do you remember our life before? And she's like, not really. Then I started talking to other people. They're like, not really. Like, I don't, it's different now. And I'm just everything. I was like, right. And then I said, you know what? Because I turned 50 last December. I turned
Which I couldn't
51
believe. You told me you're 51. I'm like, what? No, you're not. Like
well,
dead as. Hey, I didn't know.
How many 51-year-olds do you know that sound like this? Mom, you're embarrassing me. Like I sound like a kid. This is why casting has been difficult for me, because even when I was 30 years old and I'm a young dad, I'm not going up for young parent roles because I look like a frat boy that's like, just getting initiated in Frosh Week. I was like, but I'm a dad. And so I don't know. This is why I think I found a lot of success in cartoons because, and I didn't know I'd be doing this, by the way. I didn't know I would be a cartoon guy. I'd be a voiceover guy because back in the day when we, were actors, it was very much like a John Hughes film. We were all in our cliques, right? There was commercial actors, there was comedians like stand-up, there was improv people, the Second City people here in Toronto. Then you had your theater kids. Then you had your comedy people in film and TV. And then you had your voiceover artists way over there. And then you had your, um, um, dramatic actors. And it was very segregated. And it was like, it was just fine. It was just fine the way it was. It was a very old school way of, the way the industry is run. And so I kind of showed up and invented a new category. Just I created my own category because I wanted to do I wanted to have job security. That's why, you go to replace me in a thing. It's just like you can't really do a voice match. You know what I mean? It's just you gotta either wipe out the character, but if you do put a new, it's just like that's not the same at all. Like
But we
that's
got
not
the
even
AI
the same.
now. We got AI, so technically we could.
Oh
Has
my
that ever
God.
crossed your
I love
mind?
it. Oh yeah, all the time. Well, dude, I've had so many people say they were me. The whole reason I ended up doing voice work was because when I first um like when I was like I just moved back from LA or California, and I just moved back and I came home, and I was working a lot back and forth with LA and coming back to Toronto. But then after 9/11, they kind of just, they didn't like you crossing the border with the runaway productions. Cause at the time, I remember auditioning for shit in LA and they're like, are you Canadian? Are you that Canadian guy? And I was like, nope, totally denying it because they were having protests about Canadian actors like overtaking poor little mom and pop shop Hollywood, and these threatening Canadian actors. And I was like, I'm watching this, living down there with other Canadians going, I'm not Canadian. I'm totally not Canadian. And so I even changed the way I sound a little bit. I went a little more Californian, and that was the birth and the of I'll tell you how I ended up as Jude in my whole voice career, but it was because of that. But then it was like they just said you're crossing too much, so you got to make a decision. Because I was just living down there off of permits. Because I would
Right.
go down there and shoot like a commercial or shoot something, and I'd go to the production company and say, "Hey, can you just give me a permit for like 3 months?" And they'd be like, "Cool." So I could audition, right? So I was just using that, and I was getting the parts going back and forth, this and that. And then they said, "You're crossing too much." And I think there was a funny joke that was attempted to be made at this one meeting that I had with my manager at the time. I was like, cool, I got a manager and an agent. Ooh.
That's when you
And
know it's real. Like that's when you know I'm a
yeah,
working actor. I got an agent, manager. Yeah, like I hit the
dude,
big time.
I had a meeting at Paradigm, and huge agency there. And because I did a film that Billy Zane and Wood Harris, I played Chaz Chandler, and on the call list it was like Wood Harris, then me, then Billy Zane. I was like, oh, Billy Zane's number 3 and I'm number 2 on the call sheet, like woo. But he was with Paradigm, and so anyways, I'm at this meeting, and they had just signed Ross from Friends.
Oh no way.
So, and they just signed Ross from Friends, and then some guy from Survivor too, because Survivor just sort of like showed up as a show, and there was somebody from Survivor that they also signed. And I was just like, so I'm there as this new thing because I kind of got discovered through Just for Laughs at an audition for comedic actors, because that was back when Just for Laughs was like, Ray Romano and all these, like, at the time, all these stars, Titus, and we're getting these shows, these comedians were getting shows, and that's where the buyer seller market was. So I got picked up, and that's the whole reason I was in LA, because the people from Bobby Huber from CBS really liked me, and Fox really liked me because there was a lot of male centric stuff. So anyways, I'm there, and I during the meeting, somebody said something like trying to be funny and called me a Mexican with a hockey stick, and I was just like, wow, okay, that's not even funny, and you just made fun of the people above and below you. And I was like, and the fact that you're saying that I could stay, but I can only go home if there's a death or something like that. And I'm all like, nope, May 2 is coming up. I'm going to go to my cottage. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to see my friends. I'm going to do my Canadian traditions. And I was like, I'm done. So I don't know if I came home as a proud Canadian or an anti-American person, but at the time I was like, screw Canada, I'm going there. And then I was there for a year or two, going back and forth and this and that. And I was like, not for me. No, I'm not an American. Um, and it was, and then I came home and I just started booking. I started booking right away, and I was feeling great. I was doing things, and I met this beautiful young like woman who just like changed my whole world. And I just like literally come back from living down south, and I've got a an ego and a bank account, and I'm doing it. I want to be famous. I want to and I was doing big things. I had just done this Jackie Chan film, where I actually punch him out, and I'm like doing these bigger things, and it's just starting to build. And I meet this beautiful woman from North Bay, and I was like, wow, you're so like, your life is so like nice and quiet, and you're beautiful. And we started hanging out, and well, about two months into it, she's like, hey, you're gonna be a dad. And I was like, what? Record scratch skip.
Are you sure
what?
it's my kid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it definitely was.
100%.
Especially if you see her, she's like spitting image, like no paternity test needed. But not. It wasn't like, hey, babe, you know what we should do? Let's make a plan here. Like, let's do it and let's chart it out. It was just like, nope. The universe tells you what's going on. God makes your schedule, right? Not you. And so then I'm like, okay, so let's try this out. This happy miracle, this happy accident miracle that changed my life. And so part of the stipulation was, because we didn't really know each other, we didn't really plan. And she was like, well, I'll just have this kid, I'll go to North Bay, and like, it's cool. I was like, what? No, the universe gave us something. So she was like, but I don't want to be with an actor. You're filming, you're always out, you're doing stuff, like you're just around. And at the time I was traveling a lot. I was never home. And I was filming a movie when my daughter was born, and you can see it was called King's Ransom. When I came back, when I went I was up for 3 days, and I come back, you see it in my face. I'm just like a different guy, but I was like, it's there.
Fatherhood changes you.
It really does. Yeah. So then I asked my agent, I was like, what can I do that is like a job within the industry that doesn't have me traveling so much? And then she was like, well, you can do stage again, because you love that. And that's how you were trained as a classical trained actor. And I was like, nah, don't want to do that. No, that's an expensive hobby, that theater. That's like for when I get, well, about the age I am now. This was, I'm like, when
32?
I'm like in my 50s, or when I'm in my 50s or 60s, but I'm thinking more like 60s, 70s. I was going to do some theater and stuff. And then she goes, yeah, I see that. And then plus I don't want you having theater commitments, because you're on every commercial and just like fast cash. And she makes 15% commission. So then, and then she goes, you can do like voice work. But the thing is, if you do voice work, you get behind a microphone, that's it for cameras. You don't get behind the camera again or in front of the camera again. And I was like, what? And at the time it was true. People that did voice were weirdos that just did voice. I never saw them. I was never introduced. So then, and I was like, okay, let's try. So she sent me out. I couldn't get arrested. Like, it was just, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it at all. And then something happened. I get called in from Nelvana. There was a show called Bob and Margaret that was on Global.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. And it was with the guy that does the voiceovers for Pizzaville. It was a rainy day in Pizzaville. Anyways, he was the actor that played Bob. And it was about this expat from the UK that married a Canadian woman. And it's about, it's a quaint little, our Canadian Family Guy. It's very polite, and it's like Wallace and Gromit meet Family Guy. It was really weird.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird cartoon that I never watched. But anyways, I get called in by Nelvana, who was producing it, and Marilyn Ridley and Tom McGillis were working for Nelvana at the time, and Marilyn Ridley was the voice director for that, and Tom McGillis, who would later Open Up Fresh TV were there, and they called me in to redo a cartoon. They called me in to redo it because they had hired somebody else, but they wanted me because of all the commercials I did where I invented a character that had a laugh that went and just sort of talk like a real hoser, like just like, buddy, what's up, dude?
Like stoner guy.
Stoner guy. Yeah. My natural cadence. It was like, it was just there. And then they called me in and they told me like, yeah, we really like your work and this is what you're doing. We had somebody do it and then we want you to do it because it would just add a lot more to the character. So then I'm like, I've never been in a booth before, right? I've done ADR for films and TV. That's where you go in and do additional dialogue reel where you do it and you either reenact because you bumped your mic or there's a thing or there's a tough tussle, or back in the day when there was appointment television in the 90s, instead of going, fuck you, man, you go, gosh darn it, dude. And you got to put in the, the stuff for TV, right? And
it's so TV, you can have anything like a show like The Walking Dead. You can have people get their heads bashed in and everything, but God forbid you say the F word. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's so many rules.
That's live action, but I guess it's not very animated. But still, like it's like you can have anything depicted in animation, but God forbid you say the F word, you're screwed. It's like I never understood that. Like,
yeah. Well, there's so many rules. And we're like, especially back then when you had appointment television where it was just networks. There was no streaming. There was no YouTube. There was none of that, and so like what were we talking about again? I just like,
Jude 16.
How yeah. So yeah, this is
100 tangents
because this is what got me into like I always say to people when I'm training them with voice work or to get into the industry, I always tell them, I go, first of all, do you know why we're called the industry? And they're like, no, I never really thought about that. And I was like, well, first of all, we run it like the military. You have your 5-star generals, which are, executive producers, right down to motorcade or transport, like, and all points in between. It's like a mobile mass unit. We just make magic happen and we can do it anywhere. But the reason we're called the industry is because we make every other industry look, smell, taste, feel, and sound like the industry they want to, because we control all of this stuff, right? Like, you're now entering an occupation or a hobby or a vocation or a career or a path where you are blamed, shamed, and famed for how you look, sound, and think. Like, see, for me, for the past 25 years, I have been paid, acknowledged, blamed, shamed, and famed for how I look, sound, and think. Sometimes 2 of them, 3 of them, sometimes 2, sometimes 1. But then I'm like, don't worry. Some of these jobs you could never train for. You're just built this way, and you just find your way into the industry, and you're always failing forward. And that's how I describe how I got into voice work. I fell into it and I was always failing and fumbling, and I didn't really care. I had nothing to lose. I didn't set out to do this path, but how it unfolded was total destiny. And I'd like to share that story once and for all that has happened over in the last 6 years. And because it's quite a story, and it affects a lot of people. So how it all started was I get called in by these 2 people who will play an integral part of my life. But I got brought in, and I'm seeing the screen, and I see the microphone in the script, and I didn't realize that, because I was doing 1 page at a time and I was making noises, and they're like, put 3 pages. I was like, okay, but I'm losing order. My learning disabilities kicking in, and I'm all like, because I have dyscalculia, I can't think order doesn't make sense, a chronological order to things. And I'm in panic mode because I'm trying to perform, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I know I'm watching this thing happen, and then I'm seeing the swipes, and I'm like, oh, so this is how cartoons are made. Anyways, I got papers flying all over, and they were very patient with me. And I was like, thanks. I was like, I don't know. That was fun. I felt like Make-A-Wish Foundation. You know, I was just like, hey, I won this thing. And I was like, thank you for this experience. And I left. As soon as I get after that, my agent was like, so do you want to do voice work? Because they want to see you for some other stuff. And based off of your thing there. And I was like, I think I did a very bad job. I'm surprised they asked me back. And they go, no, they know that you've never done stuff, but they want to see you for some things. And I said, okay. Now remember, Marilyn Ridley, Tom McGillis. So then I go and I start auditioning for other things, and I get one for Nelvana, which is back when it was back in Liberty Village. I went going, oh, I wonder if it's the same people that I saw before, not knowing that like hundreds of people work with hundreds of productions going on. So I show up expecting to see the same people, expecting to see like the same process or something. I had an audition, but back then we used to have to go to our agents or get something faxed to us, but it was easier just to go to our agents. They pick it up. And so I picked up my script and I looked at it. I looked at the breakdown, you know, and I was like, okay. She printed it out for me. It wasn't in an email. And I was like, cool. So I get it and I go there and so I read it over, you know, a little bit. And then I get there. And then they're like, hey, Christian, nice to see you, man. Da, 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 da. I heard you did Bob Margaret. I was like, yeah, it was my first time. So anyways, I'm really excited. I'm excited for this. And so I get in the room and there's just a microphone with no TV. And I was like, where's the TV so I can watch the scene and then do it? And they're like, no. That's not how it's done. You did a pickup. And he goes, that was like dubbing. That's like what they do for anime. And I was like, what? And they're like, well, you know how, and it got explained to me right then and there. And they were like, do you know how like eyes and mouths move like this in anime? And it doesn't match up. And it's,
how are you?
Yeah. And it sounds very
dubbing,
stilted. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I don't watch anime, but I know what you mean. Cause I used to watch Astro Boy and G-Force, Gatchaman. You know, I used to watch all that stuff growing up.
Dragon Ball.
Not knowing that was anime. It was just still a commercial or a cartoon to me. And they're like, well, because those are made in Japan and then they sell them to other properties or countries with different languages. So that's why, and you make your own story. I was like, no shit. That's fascinating. And they're like, so we got to animate around you. So you got to do the scene as if it's happening. It's like puppeteering. And I was like, oh, and I go, I'm not prepared. And they go, do you want to take some time? And I was like, yes, please. And then I was like, I'm panicking. I'm freaking out. I go, I don't know what to do. And I was like, you know what? Play. What's your strong suit? It's like making shit up. You're fearless because your work ethic, you're like, I'm just going to wing it. You're a natural. Da, da. So just go in there and wing it. And then I was like, I went in and they were like, that was really good, except you have no concept of how to use a microphone and you're like all over the place and stuff like that. Cause you're like, you know, I was doing things like, so anyways, I'm like, hey, blah, 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 cause I'm so into it. Cause I'm used to theater, right? Or acting.
Yes, exactly.
Film. And they're like, pretend that microphone's a camera. And I'm like, what do you mean? What sorcery is this? And then I try it and they're like, perfect. And now how's the headphone volume? And I was like, it's really loud. And they're like, that's why you were quiet. You know, and then I was like, then it was too low. And then I was like louder and I was like, not knowing how close I was, you know, and stuff. And so they gave me a lesson and they're like, okay. So I bombed that one. I absolutely bombed that one, but they were like, A for effort, like fan favorite, you know, like you were entertaining to us. But because they knew all my commercials and they knew my film and television work, right?
And they knew that you weren't like a pro or anything, you know?
Second one out, thinking that's how they made cartoons was by you filling it in, only to find out at my audition that wasn't how it was done. So then I went home and I was like, and I looked at the script that they gave me and I looked at the scripts that I had for like movies of the week and stuff. And I was like, it's the same script. It's just a different format. So then I was like, I'm going to try stuff. So then I tell my agent, I go, hold on. So I went and talked to a few people that did this. And then I talked to them and then he said, this is what you got to do. And I was like, oh, And exactly what they told me to do, because it was on the fly. It wasn't like I took a course. Back then, there was no taking a voiceover course. There was no taking acting courses. You either went to theater school and did it. There was nothing to do this sort of thing. It's in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And then, so anyways, I take some lessons and I get a little bit of mic technique, and then I decide to create the same sort of character I did for TV or commercials, and create a different persona, because puppetry, they said, it stuck in my head. So I created different puppets. And then I was brought in for a character for on YTV, for a character on a pilot episode for a show called Sidekick. And they said he was an obnoxious, bratty 10-year-old, who blah, 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 blah. And I was like, awesome. So I talk like this, sort of thing. And I got the part, because I noticed when I came back from California and I was so like, hanging around these surfer guys, begging them to teach me how to surf, and and they would say things like, all right, dude, after we finish this like Grom sesh down in San Onofre, let's go to Wahoo Taco. And I was like, whatever you say, just keep talking. I just love the way you talk. I've always wanted to talk like that. And then when I came home, I kind of adopted that and maybe leaned into it a little bit. And like, especially if I had one of these nice Canadian beers that I couldn't get in the States, and I have it. And then all of a sudden I sounded like I was born and raised in California, with some friends of mine who knew I didn't talk like that. Because when I left, I talked like a theater school student who was so on point with my articulation and stuff, right? Anyways,
we are actors,
Yeah. And then they go, you sound like a dick, man. And I was like, cool. Because then when he said, hey, this guy is a bit of a dick, I was like, hey. So I talk like this, and I got the part. That show didn't take till 11 years later. 11 years for that show to come back. That just shows you how much things are in development and then will arise. Not anymore, because we're on a different format. But then a couple weeks later, and that audition was for Todd Kaufman and Meryl Ann Ridley again. And I was like, hey, there's that lady. And who's this guy? Oh, he works for Nelvana with a company he has called Neptune, and this is one of his shows. Todd Kaufman would be later on be the voice. He would be the voice director and the animation director and creator for Total Drama later on. So I auditioned for that. He likes me. Awesome. We're doing shit. And then I get brought in for a character for a new cartoon called 16. And they said he's a chilled out, skater dude, zenned out, lives on his own plane, sort of thing. So I talk like this, same voice, just slowed down.
Yeah.
Right. I got
like
the
you're
part.
stoned.
Boom, boom.
Same voice, but you're stoned.
Yeah. And then it was all about the laugh. That laugh that I had in commercials, they wanted it. And then all of a sudden, because of that role, I booked that part. I'm recording, I break out into commercials on the radio with that same sound, little bit like this, little bit like that. I was the spokesman for Wendy's late night every time school let out, and they started the commercials here in Canada for late night menu, because who are they appealing to? 420 crowd. A bunch of late night guys out there, munchies. And so they had these ridiculous 420 crowd, because with my voice and known as this stoner guy on 16, I gravitated toward those things where even they said, and just do the laugh. And they would use that as a button in some of these commercials, right?
So anyways, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, can you do that? Or
I can't actually.
You can't do Shaggy? Oh, really? Wow.
No, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I can't do many impressions.
He can do anything.
Well, the thing is, I had invented like, and this is what happened after I do Jude. I get that, and we start airing, it starts airing and stuff like that. It's just like, hey, cool. Still not knowing that this is a huge show as well, right? No idea, because there's no social media at this point. And also, when I started 16, I had just found out I was going to be a dad too. So it was kind of like, this thing. But then 3 years into doing 16, or a couple years into doing 16 in 2007, because I think we started that in 2004. So 2005, 2006, then 2007, I get brought in because I was working a lot for Fresh. I was doing 16, I was doing Stoked. I did many voices on Stoked, which was weird because I auditioned for the, like, it's a show about surfing. And I got day players that didn't sound like they surf. It was more like the suburban sound. I wasn't even close to like, dude, because it sounded like Jude. But then I auditioned for this thing called Total Drama with uh, uh, um, Tom McGillis, right? Who was the creator of 16, him and Jennifer Perch. But 16 had fallen off because they split with Nelvana. There was disagreements, and so the show just ended. It was like being a child in a messy divorce. It just, like, the whole thing just went boom. And it was like too bad, but also awesome because he got 6 years out of it, and it was like it made an impact. But at this point, it was already retro TV. It was all retro because of the flip phones.
Yeah, and
You know what
sometimes
I
you don't
mean?
want to beat a dead horse too. You're like, okay, we would have liked to do more, but
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
bad would the quality of the writing, deteriorate, especially considering who else picks it up? Like, it's just, there's a whole
Ex-
bunch to it. So you went out
exactly.
on a high note, and that's perfect. That's what you want.
It did. It did. And we knew at this point that it was a cultural Canadian distinctive. Like it earned a place where even if you pull it up today, they're still good. They're still relevant. These things, these episodes, that show, and those characters, because that's exactly what Fresh TV wanted to do. They wanted to make something that was like Friends, and they actually wanted it to be for like first, university crowd, for an older crowd, that 18 to 20, 25 or 24, demographic. But as soon as it aired, you had those people. It was called 16, but it was meant for the people that were just 16 a while ago, and now they're out there on their own. So it was kind of like, for that 18 to 24-year-old crowd. But then as soon as it came on, it was multi-generation. Our demographic was from like, 4 or 5-year-olds to grandparents who were watching it with them, and everybody in between, and all walks.
Yeah.
All demographics were watching it. And I was like, so we have to go back and change some script, because we were saying things like, dude, that's so gay.
Oh
It's
my
like,
god,
come
yeah, it's
here,
like
you
you.
little fart knocker, and like things like that. It was meant for the 420 crowd. And it was almost bordering on an adult cartoon. But then even when Nickelodeon bought episodes, they only bought male centric episodes. They didn't buy the entire seasons. They were picking and choosing, because at that time, everything was male centric. We had Malcolm in the Middle going on. We had My Name is Earl. It was very, very Entourage. It was very male centric at
Yeah.
that time. So anyways, so 16 is great. I've gained some stuff, but then I auditioned for Total Drama. And I'm walking in, I'm auditioning for Jeff. Hey, see that?
Yeah, the thumb. Is
The
that on
thumb.
purpose?
I know, I have a total accent. I've unlocked all of these
Krista, yeah,
animations. Where'd this one
Christian
go?
is. Oh yeah, that's not going.
Oh, yeah. What's
Literally
up?
like a magician. Like, it's so cool.
I use Zoom for teaching and stuff, and I've unlocked all these like little hidden things by accident. And I was like, yeah, I'm now AI.
He,
I'm
ac-
now AI.
he accidentally like cancels the call. Oh shit! This button, like this right
Exactly.
here is stop the call. Like, every small thing. So that's why I'm like doing this. I'm like, okay, just don't move, don't move.
It's pretty, because like sometimes, like when I'm working with clients, we're going over emotional things, we're going over emotion. And I was like, hey, why don't you just like, take it all in, sort of thing. And I'm just doing symbols like, oh wait, you can't see them. So I'm like,
Oh, there we go.
doing this, and I was like, oh, inappropriate confetti, and so I'm like, hey, good job, and like then I get, where's the fireworks? Come on, now see, it doesn't want to
Now
do
it's not
it.
doing it. Oh shit! And then all of a sudden, the very end of this podcast is just gonna come out
Totally,
of
it's gonna go on
butt fuck
multi-ball.
nowhere.
um so anyways, I auditioned for thing, for Total Drama, and I'm auditioning for the obvious, the Jeff, because he's like party guy.
Yeah.
So I auditioned to that. I auditioned for Ezekiel.
Oh, the homeschool kid.
Ezekiel. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also auditioned for Harold, the Napoleon Dynamite guy
Oh
who
my
was
god.
supposed to be.
Like literally, I thought, and I kept saying this. I said, I think that's John Heater. I literally, like, my whole life I went through. I said that's voiced by the same guy who did Napoleon Dynamite. It wasn't though,
No,
right?
no,
It was just a spot on impression.
it was voiced by Brian Froud, who's like phenomenal
Oh my
actor,
god! I literally thought it was
phenomenal
John
voice
Heater. I
actor.
said, "There's no way that's not John Heater. That is him." You know?
Yeah, no, and that's what was the breakdown. They said they just wanted, first of all, the show looks like Survivor and
Right.
Punked. Had a Survivor and Punked made a baby and a cartoon. But I auditioned for all of these things, and Tom was like, I just hear Jude. Like all I do is hear Jude, and I was like, yeah, because Jude just sounds like me personally. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, so it's just like I'm screwed. And this is something that plagued me a lot. And it would be like, well, I guess I can only work for Fresh TV at this point because, thank God these were monster shows. So anyways, I audition and, it's not going well. Like, I know it's not going well. And Tom's looks depressed. And then he's like, hold on. And he gives me a breakdown, and there's no picture or drawing of what Chris looks like. It just says Chris McLean, and then it says male, 20 something to 20 something or whatever. And then it gave a brief description of what he is. And basically, in a nutshell, it said, if think Ashton Kutcher from Punked, because that show was very popular at the time. Think Ashton Kutcher from Punked and, doing sort of this thing. And also Jeff Probst, the host of Survivor, and just sort of do a mashup. And that's what they do when they give you a breakdown, right?
And
For
the
this.
personality of Jigsaw from
Yes.
Saw.
Oh, well, see, it didn't start out that way. It didn't start out that way. There's a huge story, like, oh, the fucking drama with this show. Like, I'm telling you, it had drama. There was shit going on behind the scenes from day goddamn one.
It literally put the drama. That's why it was called Total Drama.
Oh my God, dude. Like, it was,
and you even talk so much like Jude now. Oh my God, dude. That's so Jude.
Yeah, right.
You're like, fuck, I can't escape this goddamn character.
I know. And here it's so funny when I teach at universities and colleges, and all these kids who grew up with me since their childhood and all the stuff, and they hear the voice, and, they look up, and, they're so used to the cartoon, but they're hearing the voice, and they're like, because they see this 50-something-year-old with a receding hairline and, crippling support payments going, and you can do it too, sort of thing. And they're like, I don't, can't compute. So anyways, he says, Tom goes, here, take some time and go outside. And I said, you know what, at this point, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to just wing it, which is what I do best. Right. It's another thing where I'm ill prepared, but that's when I succeed.
And that's a talent in and of itself. Like some people who have to prepare for weeks, for months, but you can just walk right in and just freestyle, basically. Like rappers who come in and freestyle songs. They don't even sit down and write it. They just do it. You know what I mean? And that's you with voice acting. Like it's just in your DNA.
Right. And because I've had confidence of, like, I'm Jude, I'm doing so many commercials. I've been spokespeople for things. Like, I'm making sick bank. I'm making six figures, like, here, there, and everywhere. Okay.
Right.
With the with the voice thing. And now all of a sudden I'm just blowing up. So I wing it. And I just think Jeff Probst, and I think Jeff Probst and Ashton Kutcher. And I remember those guys are both kind of like, Ashton Kutcher is totally like just this guy, right? He's just totally, dude, where's my car? I was like, perfect. So I'll act like him, but act like the host.
Right.
That just list stuff, because the stuff that he does is he just gives laundry lists. So anyways, I do it, and I throw it all in the wind. And I was like, this is what I like to do, because at this point, there are no fucks given. I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think this show sounds stupid. You know what I mean? Like, this show sounds absolutely stupid. I go, people are going to see that it's just a ripoff of Survivor, but it's a total cheesy ripoff with thing. And I was like, because I didn't know much about it. You know, there's other cartoons. I was like, I want to be on that one. I want to be on that one, you know, but I can't get auditions for it because, you know, they don't really have something for my voice quality in there.
Right.
Even though I can do other voices, they all wanted to hear the dude or the thing. So then, anyways, I'm like, here we go. And I was like, Ashton Kutcher, duh. And I read the thing and I'm just being like this. And I'm like, and then all they did, so the object of this one is to go to the other side of the island. And then a couple of like, last time on Total Drama, I was just like, I was having fun. I was seeing the character. I was doing the whole puppet thing that somebody told me to do, because they said there will come a time where they like to just see what you can do with it on the spot, or you'll get a rewrite. So just learn to think off your feet and just make it your own. And that's what I did. I made it my own. And then someone goes, do you want him? Okay, Christian, thank you. And he's like, no. Tom was like, no, hold on. He's doing something interesting here. Then he gave me some direction. And then I was like, blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of direction. I'm like, cool, I can work with that. And then I finessed it a bit. I don't remember it much, but I remember leaving going, okay, you know what? That makes me feel good, because as an actor, it is your job to audition. That's it. It's your job to audition. And you're only as good as your last job, right? So I was like, okay, good. I redeemed myself and I tried something new, because when I'm in the moment and I'm trying something new and I had that freedom, I was loose. I was like just ringing it. It was like being a stand-up comedian and just rocking it, being in the moment, in the now.
Right.
So I did. I was like, thanks. Still recording, other stuff. Like, cool. Cause we were, and I said, thank you. I'll see you later. And bye, everybody. And a couple of days later, they're like, you booked Chris McLean. And I was like, what the actual, like, really? And I was like, I did everything right.
I think you called the wrong number.
Well, the thing is, after you do an audition, you're supposed to not think about it. You're on to the next. So that's what I did too, because I was like, I bombed it, but I also did something neat. And then I started thinking of other characters. I was like, maybe I can use that character, because I have the confidence now to go into other cartoons. Right. And in that whole process of me just sort of like making a library or trying this different sound, instead of the stoner guy, he was like a little more aggro stoner. He was like a little bit like that. And then I get the call and I was like, whoa. So then we record it, but then I show up the first day and they're all like, okay, that's okay. No, that's good, because we're still figuring stuff out. I still haven't seen a drawing or a caricature of Chris McLean. So I'm doing it. I'm trying stuff. But at this point now, I've got not just scenes, I've got, last time on Total Drama, the blah, 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 the blah, blah, blah. And then introducing all the characters one by one, trying to make them sound different, not knowing what these characters look like. I haven't seen a lineup. I don't know anything. And then I'm just like, I'm trying my best here. And remember, I'm new-ish, but I'm also very comfortable at doing one voice.
Right.
Or just a caricature that I've created with, 50 Shades of Stoner, and I'm meeting success thinking this is what voice acting is. And
that sounds like a romantic stoner comedy, 50 Shades of Stoner. That just sounds like
dude, 50 Shades of Dude. There it is.
Dude,
there's my memoir. And here's my picture.
Perfect.
Just looking at the microphone.
That's perfect. Wow.
You heard it here, folks. Let's get some pre-sales happening. Link
in the description.
Right here. 50 Shades of Dude. So anyways, I booked that and I'm there and I'm trying. And then I remember Deb Toffin, the voice director at the time. There's a lot of bodies piled on the show. Stuff happened. She was the original voice director, and Todd Kaufman and Mark Thornton were the animation directors as well, right? Because when
Mm.
you're doing animation, you have the voice director and the animation director, and everybody's talking a lot of moving parts to make it happen. But we as actors only talk to the voice director
Yeah.
because they can translate what they need, and if we're not getting it. Anyways, so it's the team there, and at this one day, and I think we're 3 or 4 episodes in, and we're getting it. And I think I might have seen a caricature of Chris McLean. I was like, oh, okay. Because I try to act like them, or I see the puppet, or I see the cartoon in my head and I do it. And so I'm doing it, and they're just like, you know what, Christian, it's just sounding flat. It's sounding like it's just not there. Like it's
Mm.
not engaging. And I was like, I don't know what to do, because you're like, hurry up. And this is like chunks of speeches of this long,
Right.
3/4 of a fucking page. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to do my best. And we're getting really frustrated and, not angry, but there's this animosity in the air, because she's giving me directions like, go like ba 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 ba. And I was like, really? You just did that in falsetto. I know you're trying to count it out. You don't want to do a line reading. Also, you can't. You can't do a line reading
Yeah.
because you're just trying to get it out because you're getting orders, but you can't communicate to me. I've got an abstract mind. Like you're on cave paintings and smoke signals and Morse code, and I'm on telepathy. You know what I mean? We just not communicating. And she goes, I just go ba 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 ba, and I go ba 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 ba, and probably shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Because I was just being like a dick because I'm frustrated. I don't know what, and she just looks at me and just like, just like that, and I was like, okay, and I was like, and then so I storm out. I just like, I'm just gonna get some fresh air kind of thing. Or I don't even know if I said that. I just walked out
Just storm out.
and just walked out back where we used to record 16 at, down there at in Liberty Village. I walk out, I go around to the corner to the bathroom where they had showers and stuff, where I used to just go in the summertime, and just because it's so humid in Toronto, and I would just have showers there all the time.
That's your
But I walk in
stand.
there.
The communal bathrooms.
Yeah, totally,
Literally
totally.
goes in. This fucking bitch.
So I go in there, I look in the mirror and going, you just screwed your career. Like you just screwed your career.
Wow.
And I come in and I come in and I said, I've got to redeem. I've got to earn her trust back, and everybody, I've got to pull a stunt. I can't come in, apologize. I just have to do something. Think, Christian Potenza. So I always lead with humor whenever I have discourse, or I'm fighting with somebody, or we're arguing, or we just don't agree. So I walk in and I go, Deb, I think I know what the problem is. When I rehearse at home and I feel free, I have my shirt off. So I took my shirt off. I took it off and I go, see, already better. And I'm smiling. She's laughing. Everyone's laughing. I go, last time on Total Drama. And she goes, that's it.
Slipped right into it.
Can you smile? And I was like, of course. So I smiled. And then the voice came out. It was like, last time. So I'm smiling and I'm yelling. And they are turning down the because if you listen to Chris McLean, he's like, last time on Total Drama. And he's talking like this. But in actuality, when I first started and all the time, Chris McLean talks like this. It's really pushed, but then they bring the gain down so it sounds muted. Sounds like I'm just talking, but I'm yelling. So after a 2-hour record, my back, I ended up having back problems from this thing and occupational hazards. It's just like my whole tuning. And then I became the loud voice actor. But so this show now is out there, and I'm like, cool, we get a thing, and it's out there. And I was like, cool, just like every other show that we do. I was like, it'll probably get canceled. So we're like, cool. And we're still recording. This is in 2007. We have the opening. I bring my daughter to this opening thing, and it was down in Toronto, down at the, the waterfront. And it was like so cool. And they had a confessional. It was a big launch, And I was like, wow, this is kind of a big show. This is I've never been to one of these before. And I was like, cool. And then I was like, I wonder how it's going to do. And then it airs. And one of the lead characters, one of my favorite characters, is Owen with the
The big guy
whatchamacallit on the big guy with a big Canadian
with the
leaf on
flag
it.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, nobody likes our shows. Nobody likes Canada's shows. Like, I was like, fuck,
Unless you're Trailer Park Boys or Corner Gas or any
right,
any of those ones.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this thing blew up in the States, and that's what made it blow up around the world. Then all of a sudden, Facebook and YouTube show up. Now it's a game changer because now the show's out there and it's on the air. And then all of a sudden, my inbox starts blowing up. Are you the voice of Jude and the dad, and this voice of Chris McLean? And I was like, yes. Oh my God, I'm a big fan. I was like, what's going on? Well, people can find me. You can find me. I usually got fan mail delivered to my agent because that was the only now people are finding me. I was like, hey, this is awesome. Then I'm like, yes, I am. And at the time too, I had my house done over on a makeover show with Colin and Justin's Home Heist. So that was up there. Plus many other cartoons, commercials, stuff I'm on. So it's like, I'm on this, like I'm on a thing, that's constantly in rotation. And then people are contacting me, fans. And then I'm like, wow, this is pretty neat and awesome. Until I get called into the office.
Oh God.
And yeah, and because there was somebody saying they were Christian Potenza and that they were going to give all these secrets to what's going on with the show and for people to subscribe to his channel. And there was pictures of Chris McLean. There was pictures of me because you can get them off the internet. And he just sort of put them up there and it looked like me, but obviously it would look like it was done by a teenager. So I get called into the offices and my agent gets called in and they're like, what are you doing by doing this? I was like, that's not me. And I was like, why would this like hack? And first of all, I don't even know what YouTube is. I just thought it was another like MySpace, a YouTube, but blah, blah, blah. I had no idea until somebody showed me and we looked it up on a computer. I was like, what the actual is going on? And then I contact this kid and it's some like 13-year-old guy from Pennsylvania. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm trying to start up my channel because I know you're saying you're me and stuff like that, but I'm getting in trouble for it. So I'm just going to ask you, can I have my name back? And I got to do a thing, like no hard feelings, funny, good thing. And he's like, no, I'm not going to give it back to you. You know what? I'll give it back to you with two things. I want a passport to Canada and I want to be on Total Drama. And I was like, are you blackmailing me? Literally.
It literally was blackmail. Like,
yeah. And I was like, are you blackmailing me? And he's like, fuck you, you hobo, you hack actor, and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like,
fucking 13-year-old kid
taking me out at the knees. And I'm all like, he said I was like a hack voice actor. But I thought everyone likes me. I thought everyone thinks I'm awesome. No, this is where I started realizing. And then I also looked up other people saying they were Christian Potenza on YouTube, and there was lots of them. I didn't know you could do that without being the real person. And then I went to Facebook and I looked at all of those. There was some Christian Potenzas, Cristiano Potenzas and stuff, and they lived in Italy though. I got that. Okay, I can handle that. It's the other ones that are making it up and they're putting up pictures of total drama. So I'm like, see, so anyone can do that. So I thought the only way I can combat this is to type in, my name as being the real Christian Potenza. So I took my my high 8 video camera. That's right, with little mini cassettes. And I took it to work and I said, hey, everyone, it's me, Christian Potenza. You can probably hear it in the voice because it sounds like the characters I do on the cartoons. And I was like, there's a lot of people saying they're me. I'm getting in trouble. So I'm going to bring you to work because this is where we do it. So this is a typical day in a voice as a voice actor. And then I showed everyone what we do. And I came in and I think I ran into Scott McCord one day, and I was like, so what we do is we come in here, we sign in, and then we highlight our script, and then we wait and we go in. And I brought it in to the booth and I said, this is what I do. I filmed it. Dude, I posted that because it was the only way to clear my name. Boom. It was like putting out fire with gasoline. Next thing I know, a couple 2 months later, I'm a partner with YouTube, and then I'm doing stuff, and then I'm making some serious cake, and then it became an enterprise. And then somebody says you should do a convention, and I was like, what is that? And then, what's a Comic-Con? I was like, where all those nerds hang out, because like I'm the cool guy now. I'm not the outsider. I'm not the outsider.
I'm the insider.
I'm the insider. Like I am the guy, my big ego. And and they're like, yeah, you should do those. And then Todd Kaufman, who is the director and did the original drawings or the animation for Total Drama. His brother-in-law was the managers for Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Lamar.
Yeah, Billy West, of course. Futurama, right? Fry from Futurama. That's who I'm thinking of, I believe. Right?
Oh, I know Adam West. Did I say Billy West?
I said Billy
Adam
West.
West. Adam West.
Oh,
Batman.
Batman.
Freaking
Man.
Batman guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll tell you about my Billy West story later. But so anyways, so he says, we got a table in Artist Alleyway from my thing, and we're right next to the Batmobile. And because I was like, oh, and they were like, can you come with us, because we hate talking. Like we're not, that's not my thing. And they want me to do a panel on this and that. So I was like, cool. So I show up, we bring in some standees, some cutouts, and I was like, okay. I saw what was happening. So I went that night, because I'm there for 3 more days. I went into Staples and I just printed off a bunch of stuff and of Chris McLean and Jude and printed, brought it the next day, and like I made like $2,000. And I was like, my God, I see what this is. But this is where my eyes opened up, because
like you're part of something big. Oh, right.
Yeah. This is where my eyes opened up to who my fan base was, because it wasn't online. It's right in front of me. Thousands of them. Thousands.
Millions,
showing up
maybe.
In person.
Oh, in person.
Right?
Okay, yeah, thousands.
Yeah, at these things, because it's like an outreach. I'm seeing who my fans are. Because to me, I do a cartoon, I'm done. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these people, but most of my audience is on the spectrum. They're disabled. They're in hospital. I was contacted 3 times by Make-A-Wish Foundation. Two of those kids passed away. Actually, one of them wasn't even Make-A-Wish. It was, I don't know if I was contacted through Make-A-Wish, because the thing is, the kid was dying, and the Total Drama was going to release one of the new seasons, and he was afraid he was going to die before he knew the end of the thing. So I read to him over the phone, because he couldn't talk. He was like, he was on a ventilator and stuff like that. So, but everyone was like, yeah, he was talking. He was so excited. So I read him the first episode, and I read him the last episode. So he knew who won, and he did die the day after I read it to him. And that could have been a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it was about to air on the Friday or whenever it did. But you see, most of my people that were coming to my booth are like, they're on the spectrum, they're disabled, they're neurodivergent, they're outsiders like myself, growing up, and I related to them, and they were like, I want to be a voice actor just like you. And I was like, well, why don't you? And they're like, well, nobody will let me. but I have all of these voices and characters, and I have a microphone, or I have, I have these fan fictions, or I do these impressions and I've already recorded them. I was like, this is great. This is great. But I was also noticing, I was like, nobody will let you. And I was like, you don't have a job, but you have a $600 pass around your neck and a cosplay costume that I'm gonna say is hovering around $500 to $800 from what I see, because I don't know if you have the skill set to make that. But you never know. And you also just dropped $200 at my table. And I'm like, where are you getting this money from? And that's where I was introduced to um, passport funding. And I was like, oh, that's when I found out that people with neurodivergency, or, disabilities, and or conditions, through a provincial program here, are allowed a certain amount of money minimum, and depending on your condition, but half is for recreation and half is for education.
Oh, okay.
And this is where things turn. This is where things start turning. I am gaining so much success at do the commercials, or sorry, do the cartoons, do the animations, then they go up. And while they're up, I'm doubling down on the money I make, because every time it airs, like, I got things to talk about. But also, while I was doing it, I was filming the whole process. And I was also being asked to be on other cartoons as a day player, or they give me, a reoccurring or an actor role. An actor role is 5 lines or less. They give me an actor role just because they knew I was going to review it. It was free advertising, because Canada doesn't really get behind their stuff. And there was a big thing going on with Teletoon, because you needed a Canadian distributor in order for us to do stuff. And, Teletoons was always sitting on their hands when it came to Total Drama. That's why Cartoon Network came in and just says, we're going to open up a Cartoon Network Canada.
Yeah.
Great. Now we have our
we'll
own
take care of
distributor.
that.
We'll take care of that. You were waiting too long for you. We want more Total Drama. And they're like, it's not really our show. We're more like Lego Ninjago, and it's like, oh man, okay. You got the #1 show around the world for 9 years, and you're like, not really our thing. I was like, so weird, guys. Anyways, long story short, I am now interacting with fans with my YouTube channel, with conventions and cons, and creating my own line of merch, because after a while, people that gave me stuff were like, okay, we're not giving you anymore. And also, like, yeah, because you're just making tons of money, our stuff. So then I was like, okay, because I remember Teletoon going, you can't charge, because I had lunch boxes.
Right.
And I would just fill it with stuff. They gave me stuff to give away, and towels with Chris McLean stuff on it, because they were doing some promotions, but it was with all of their shows, right? And so I was giving away stuff, and they go, you can't charge for, you can't sell these lunch boxes. And I was like, I'm not selling the lunch box. I'm selling my autograph that's on the lunch box. And if you notice, I put one of my own Animation Nation Army stickers on there. So it's on that. You gave me these to give away, and I give away all your stuff, but I'm putting my stuff with it to beef it up. And they're like, oh, okay. So they didn't get me on that. But then I was like, they stopped giving me stuff. So then I turned to fan art, and I've got something for you that I'll show you later. But now I'm creating and living with my peeps. And Total Drama's over. We stopped doing stuff. We had some reboots here and there and stuff like that, but it was off. And I was like, I was done with Total Drama, because it was getting weird, because people were making fan fictions. People were doing stuff. They're like, and I was like, great, like all these people, but I was like, I'm not really into it. And also, I don't really like being Chris McLean.
No, and
I
then
like
also, like, you
knowing me.
want to move on a little bit, because I see, you take someone like Robert Downey Jr., for example. Spoiler alert for Avengers Endgame, where after he's done, he's like, okay, I'm going to now distance myself from Iron Man. I want to move on. And, he's doing all these movies like Oppenheimer and stuff like that. But
Yep.
also, like, I'm kind of curious, how did you find that balance where it's okay, I want to distance myself from Chris McLean, but also accepting the fact that, look, there's people who say that you grew up with them, you know what I mean? Like, because they're watching Total Drama all the time. So while you want to move on from them, how do you also accept the fact that, Chris McLean's not going anywhere? Like, you left such an impact on, cartoon history, really. Like, how do you adjust to that?
See, and it wasn't really adjusting. It was there's a book that's been written for you and a book you write yourself. I've always been a book I write myself kind of guy.
Right.
Right? I am the creator of my own destiny. I am the alchemist. And there I am on the front of my freight train with my saber, my musket, my flag, and my drum and pyrotechnics going, yeah. But really forgetting the fact that I still have to shovel the coal in the front. I still have to work the drink cart and the hospitality cart, and I sleep in the caboose. I'm doing everything. And it got to be too much because it was a whole other life. And I didn't really have protection. I had a few convention managers that tried to, but I was like, no, I like to just do my own thing. I don't care. Like, why am I going to give you commission? It's just a cash grab. Because I stopped doing conventions. I go, this is hollow. I have all these people that are neurodivergent and really creative, and I was like, I want to make really weird cartoons with these people, my peeps, ADHD kids, the outsiders, the people that were bullied and picked on, um you know uh, uh, and so I stopped selling my autograph. I was like, I'm never selling my autograph again. I'm never taking any money. But I started making donations, and I had a thing with Jude. It was like a pumpkin, and I just said, here, throw it in here, and I made triple the amount that I would have by selling my thing, because I was doing shout outs and this and that, because I realized something. I realized that I have a talent.
Mm.
But if I don't show you that you have the same, or if not greater talent, then my talent's for nothing. And besides, I didn't want to be Chris McLean anymore, because Chris McLean ended up being a real sadistic thing. Like, there was one season that we had to change a lot. Like, remember when Fukushima happened, and all that toxic waste, that radioactive water went into the Pacific Ocean. It caused a lot of things. And at that time, we were doing a Total Drama season where Chris had stashed all this nuclear waste in this bottom of a volcano, and it did some stuff. So nuclear waste and radioactive waste in a natural setting was not really funny. So we had to redo that, and then we redo it. But then Chris kept getting meaner and meaner, to the point of being sadistic. And I was like, I'm a Jude guy. You
Yeah,
know what I
like,
mean? I like
literally.
fun cartoons, but this thing is like, Chris became just so sick and twisted, and he just sounds like me. And I was like, and I talk like him. And I was like, I don't want to be this anymore. I don't want to be associated with this guy. Cause look what happened to Michael Richards, you know, played Kramer on Seinfeld. It's like, you see him in anything else, it's like, I only see Kramer. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to be Chris McLean, because it was already affecting my career, because it was so famous. He's so famous, like in so many countries. Like, it's just like, I'm that guy. And because he sounds like me, it's just like,
And
and
death
the only
threats
other
too,
show,
right?
pardon me.
Death threats too, right?
Oh
That
my
was a
God,
big
we'll get
thing.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And the thing is that uh being associated with that, I just wanted to get away. But when it sounds like you, and you're doing all this, you're trying to change it, you can't. It's like having a tattoo of your face on your face.
Right,
Do you know what I
exactly.
mean? It's just like, it ain't going going anywhere. No matter what you do, it will always be that. So I slowly, I stopped doing, first of all, I just stopped engaging on my YouTube channel because I tried to switch it over to other things. And even on my Facebook page or any of my social media stuff, I would post something and it'd be all like, hey, what about why in episode 6 of season 5 did you do this? I was like, oh my God, first of all, I do not voice and make these cartoons in my basement and do the thing. I'm the actor and they don't tell me shit. I'm
They just
alone.
give
I
you
was
the
just like,
script and you read it. That's all you do.
I just wanted to do my job. And believe me, when I started this, I was just some guy that got a gig.
Exactly, right? Like,
I just got a gig and I was doing my thing. I'd show up and show off. I hope you're entertained, not knowing that I'd be seeing anybody, just along my merry way, right? Especially when it was a cartoon, not my face that's on a commercial or in a show, an episodic or in movies. But then somewhere in there, I get a Canadian Screen Award for best host. I'm up against live action hosts, real live action host for some very big shows,
and you're
and
playing
there
a
I am.
fictional host,
I'm an
like,
animated scripted character on a cartoon who plays a host. And so I'm like, kind of cool that I made the Canadian industry history books as the first animated character that is a host that is being in a competition with a bunch of real live human beings. So
it'd
I'm
be
like,
like Bradley Cooper being nominated for a Grammy up against some of the best people for A Star Is Born. That was a scripted movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yep,
not exactly
yep.
a straight comparison, but that kind of idea. Like, you're nominated up against like the best of the best in that business. You yourself are
In
not
that
a host.
category,
Yeah,
which is a
you're
live
not a
action
host.
human being.
Exactly. You're not a host at all. You're a scripted, not just scripted, but a animated character who your face isn't on it. It just sounds like you. You know what I mean? Like, that's wild.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't win. And I was really disappointed because I was like, fuck Canada. It's known, like, I'm super wicked famous all around the world except here. I'm just nothing but haters here in Canada. Like, absolute haters, except for the fans. Haters gonna hate. Anyways, they associate me and my personal character to be like Chris McLean. That's why it sounds so natural, I guess. So I'm like, I gotta change. And I remember leaving one agency and going to a new one, going, I want to change things. And just as I start doing that,
Susie gave a thumbs up. I'm sorry. That thing is just so funny.
I speak love into this.
So good. It
Um,
oozes.
but as soon as I start this change, I could feel my life change. I stopped doing conventions. I'm like, nope. I just faded back. I stopped doing my YouTube stuff and I stopped doing that a little while before because it was all total drama. And then I started doing other stuff. I started teaching voice acting. I started to teach people how to create their own, how to be a voice actor, because all these voice actors, these casting agents, these people in voice casting, right? And voice directors were having these workshops,
Hmm.
and how to make a demo, what to do, because everyone needed a demo. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to show people how to do it by getting a microphone, because now they're plugging into your phones and iPads and computers. They're USB. You don't need an interface. You don't need to know how to use all this stuff, right? You don't even. And I was like, because this is what we were doing. And I was like, if I can show all these other people how I'm doing it to record at home, then I can also sell them equipment. So I was like, and I'll build you a studio, like, because you only need a thing. And I was like, so I started up something. I started up a thing called Switchboard Sessions. And this is where I started opening up to like the public, not just the industry people, right? Because my union actor had asked me to, because they were like, hey, he's a YouTube sensation, he's going to teach us how to do this. So I teach, at their conferences, I do stuff, and and even helped ACTRA write the laws, because they were like, you got to register your channel. And I was like, what? Why do I have to do that? It's like, well, for protection, let me tell you what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't want the union having anything to do with my own creative, it has nothing to, my agent doesn't get a commission off of this. This is my own thing. But to them, I was in non-union world, and I was like, I don't know if I agree with this, but whatever. I guess, this comes with being very platformed and doing these union shows. I have a responsibility. So I was like, okay. And I don't mind the protection. I don't mind the protection from my union on this, right? Because at the end of the day, the United Steelworkers of America are our big brothers when it comes to the union stuff. Every time that they're in negotiations, the United Steelworkers, the Teamsters, come up from the States and go, what seems to be the problem here? You know what I mean? We're like, yeah,
FBI.
you tell them, United Steelworkers of America, because we are a union of individuals who are in competition and collaboration with each other at all times. It doesn't work. Hey, man, even communism on paper makes a lot of sense. It's just the human element, right? Like, I mean, so
exactly.
But you see now with this union and non-union work in voice work, this is where there, I was like, I remember telling ACTRA, I was like, because I'm working with all these non-union people who are doing these having their own podcast, they're doing their own voice work, and there's these voice banks. I was like, what are these? This is amazing. And I was like, wow, I can teach people how to do it on a professional level and make demos and do recording, and they can teach me how to use this equipment because they're well versed in it. And I could collaborate and make demos. And so I can help them find agents and get their demos done and join the union. And so this, this starts, and I'm gaining a lot of momentum. And I hook up with an agency here who asked me to come in and, give, because they had a bunch of kids on Magic School Bus. And this was like 10 years ago, right? This was 10 years ago. And they saw that there's going to be this huge boom in voice world. So then I got a big contract, and then I moved. But the thing is, as I'm gaining momentum, I'm also, and gaining a lot of notoriety and creating a scene, I'm also, because I think everyone loves me, I'm on YouTube, I'm on this, I'm a great voice actor.
I'm Chris McLean, bitch.
I'm Chris McLean. And now I'm moving into showing you how to do it, right? I'm, do you want to be, who's the next Jude? Who's the next Chris McLean, right? What, you like Tara Strong? Do you want to be like her? Do you want to do audiobooks? Do you want to do, commercials? Do you want to do animation? And there's this new thing coming out, that you should get used to. It's called motion capture. It's for video games where they do this and that. And then there's motion performance, and it's just like, wow. So what do you want to do? Do you want to find representation? Do you want to set up a booth? So I'm doing all this, and I'm getting very busy by teaching people how to do it and have their own equipment. And but I'm also making people who are not very friendly and don't want me around. You see, in the States, it's illegal. It's a conflict of interest for a casting director or a voice director. Like if the voice director for Rick and Morty or Family Guy, right, big shows, right? If they were to hold a workshop and say, hey, come take my workshop, and you'll make a demo, and there you go. There you can take it. Everyone's going to sign up for that. But yes, it's just absolutely a cash grab. But in the States, it's a conflict of interest. It's like, it's not even like shooting fish in a barrel. It's like knocking the barrel over and just scooping up fish, and just doesn't matter. But here in Canada, they don't have those laws. So I'm competing with other voice actors who are also supplementing their income because I moved away from doing the voice, the conventions and YouTube and stuff, and that paid well.
Oh,
In fact,
absolutely.
it paid more than the goddamn cartoons. But that became its own job, and I didn't want to do that because I had become a parody of myself. So then I started doing this, and I started teaching, but that is pissing off a lot of voice directors. Some of them were advertising on my YouTube channel. I'd see their things come up. I was like, but here comes the that guy, and like, hey, he's not what he says, he da da da. And I was like, okay, great. So something happens when I just start to get going here. My mother passed away in 2017. Right when I was doing this, I'm going to make a move, I'm going to change my life. Well, the universe had something really planned, an accelerated program on these changes.
Changes
I
anybody. Yeah.
well, and we always know that these days are going to come, but we act and live as if they never will
That's the
until they
thing.
do.
Like you wanna like it delaying the inevitable. It's like I mean, obviously, someone gets a dog. Eventually, you're gonna have to. That day is gonna come. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
but that's just life. You know what I mean? Like that just
yep.
happens. And there's nothing that you can do. Even if you prepare for it, no matter how long you prepare for it, it's never enough.
Well, most people think that, like, things that happen in their life, they think that these events or these occurrences, these mishaps, these joys, these glories are happening to them, instead of just acknowledging that they're just happening. Life moves
Exactly.
like sheet music, right? And you're on a certain beat, but there's not happening to you. They're just happening. If you want them to affect you, you can. But you see, at this point in my life, I'm still the guy that is the book I write myself. And I'm forging out, and I'm like, I'm starting up a voice acting company, a voice acting scene. I'm going to, run a network of people where I'm going to produce the da 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 da. And then I sort of just get, you know, I'm moving around because where I was, and I'm just hearing grumblings. I'm like, obviously I'm expanding. So I was like, I'm going to expand. So I moved it, and I had a big contract where I was like making multiple demos for one agency, just as a big thing, from kids to adults, senior citizens almost. And so I got that, but right in the middle of that, and I was shooting a film called Flint with Queen Latifah and Betsy Brandt, who played my Betsy Brandt from Breaking Bad.
Marie.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And so I played her husband in that thing. And right in the middle of filming that, my mother dies. And I was like, uh, and, you know, I became rudderless. It was like going outside for a cigarette and turning around, and it wasn't like the door was locked. It's like the door was gone. Like the portal that you came out of, your mother, on this 3D plane is gone. It changes you on a molecular level where you're like, it's so weird. What happens? This transfer of energy and feelings of just like, I don't quite understand. And I was like, how do I heal? How do I grow? How do I fix my life? Like, because I'm just like rudderless. It's not a good scene. My fiance and I split up. I stopped working. I'm like I don't even know what's up. I don't know which way is up. And I was just like, I need to just take a knee. And this voice came into my head and said, you know just be the person you said you were going to be. And I was like, right, because I kind of got away from that you know And so I did. And then I really sunk myself into, I was like, I don't want to act anymore. I don't have it in me. I need to fix some things like we all do. So I do that. And I decide to move. I had already moved from Oakville, and I moved to Toronto. Um, and I went back to Toronto after raising my daughter because I always wanted to get back. And then I get back to Toronto. I was like, this isn't the same. I did a fringe play and I was like, I don't even know if I want to be acting anymore. Like I want to be teaching. I want to be teaching. I just want to create, and I just don't want people to look at me. I don't want to be acknowledged as a voice actor. I don't want to do impressions of myself. I just want to teach people the essence of what it is. But also, this voice work is going to help me heal, and I'm going to show people how, you can change yourself on a molecular level, and you can find freedom by unlocking your throat chakra and just aligning yourself, and getting. So I started doing that, and I moved to Hamilton, where I was gifted this studio with 6,500 square feet by a company. There was a company called Banyan that worked with troubled kids. I had met somebody who had a float tank place, like those isolation float tanks. He had a space in that building. He said there was other spaces, so I went in to check it out, and then I met the landlords, and he goes, "I have 6,500 square feet upstairs," and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's with Banyan, but you know you could take it over, but it's paid for the next 6 months. So if I give it to you," because I came in and I started taking ceiling tiles down. I was like, "Oh, we're going to do this, this, this." It was like the art center, the digital media art center that I was trying to build as my own. I had it for 6 months. So then I got the place because Banyan, who worked with troubled youth, was like, "Hey, we like what you're doing, and you work with youth. They all know who you are. And if you're going to do something that does program, we're going to give you this place 6 months free, and then then you can take over the rent." And I was like, "Cool, I'll do that." So we did, and then I brought in some very famous voice actors like Ivan Sherry, Ellen Dubin, and we did some workshops. John Nellis from he taught me in theater school. He's my stage combat teacher, and then but he's now the dialect coach for Ubisoft and a little bit
Oh,
of
wow.
stuff. Yeah, and same with Ivan Sherry at the time and Ellen Dubin. They were big time voice actors. So we did some video game voice acting and now I'm in Hamilton, not Toronto.
Mm.
I had moved because things were getting a little weird there. I was like getting like squeezed out, and I couldn't, get my scene going on because I was getting thwarted because I was, you know, uh, eating other people's lunch, I guess, or cutting their grass unintentionally. But how dare you? And I've talked to other famous voice actors who wanted to make the progression into voice directing, and they're like, "You can't be both. You can't be both. You can't be a famous, well-known voice actor and then voice direct cartoons." It's like
One or
that's
the
not
other.
how it works, right? Because there's people there that have been there who don't want you there. And the industry, is a popularity contest, right?
Yeah, not
And
always about talent. It's always about popularity, luck, a good mixture of it, I'd say.
yeah, yeah, but it's just like and politics
Yep.
and special deals, you know what I mean? And working relationships. And that all disbanded when COVID happened and we found out there were certain jobs that were just golden handshakes. They're not necessary. They're just money grabs and they aren't there. So yeah, we'll get to that in a second because we're doing this whole tell all is it's just going in chronological order. But here
Mm.
we are. This is the final changing point. So I moved to Hamilton and I offer these things, and it's a different crowd than Toronto. Toronto's very industry based because I used to get emails from people go, "Oh, I wish I could take your course." And I was like, "Well, I do offer it online." I then go move to Hamilton and I offer these workshops and I bring some people in from Toronto that are well known that I used to do stuff with in Toronto.
Mm.
But now it's like we're making even more money and it's a little more extensive and I have my own studio. I don't have to pay, everybody. So I'm paying them well and I'm setting up these things and I am putting out these videos. So I'm back on YouTube and Facebook and stuff and I'm putting stuff out where I'm like, "Hey, I moved to Hamilton. I've opened up this new place. And this weekend we have this person coming in. If you want to send us an email, blah, blah, blah," like an intake. I
Mm.
got these well-crafted emails and I'm like, "See, this is what I'm talking about." Because the same people that when I was doing this in Toronto were like, "Hey, I'd love to do one of your things, but I can't." And I was like, "Where do you live?" Because I have many people from out of town. We can do it online or you can come here and we can make a weekend about it or whatever or whatever. They're like, "Oh, I live in Hamilton," which is like 40 minutes outside of Toronto. I was like, "Well, why can't you just come?" And I was like, "Never mind." Then I moved to Hamilton. I was like, "Oh, I see.
That's it. Yep.
I see. I see. I see exactly why you can't leave." But then, I'm getting these well-crafted emails and I go, "See, people put Hamilton down, but look at this. Look at this. Look at this, how the response," I go, "This is somebody who cares." And you guys all put down Hamilton. Then in this building, in our lobby, people would show up and see, I got 6,500 square feet that I had to manage. So I brought in, because I was going more into health, wellness, mental health, and stuff like that. And I had to fill the place with other people. And like, I'm the only industry actor in it. I brought in some people as well to come and do workshops, but I couldn't find any artists who had money to pay rent. But there were some psychotherapists and people in the spiritual community, right, that were willing to pay, and they had some stuff. And then so I brought them in. And so when people would come to the lobby, I was like, maybe they were going to a psychotherapist or a therapist and over there, because it was all part of the same conglomerate that we were all doing, right. And then I see this autistic person standing in the lobby with somebody just going like this. And I was like, "Hi, can I help you?" Because thinking that they're going to go see one of the therapists. And they're like, "Hey, Christian, it's me, Zach." And I was all like, "Hey, Zach, I'm here for the workshop." And I was like, "Oh, you're Zach?" And I was like, "Well, that explains the well-crafted email." Right. And
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know what to do." And then they start coming in and I'm like, 3/4 of the people here are on the spectrum. It's not what I'm used to in Toronto, but it's used to what I'm doing at Comic-Con. And I was like, right. They said that they wanted to do what I do, but no one would let them. And I was like, "Oh my God." So I turned to these people. I go, "Well, this is what we're dealing with today." And they're like, and they're used to it because of the conventions. They know, and they like, "Well, nothing we can do about it now. We're here for the next 4 hours.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
let's have a good time." And sure enough, these people showed up and they just fearless did it. And everyone's like, and also the other people there didn't bat an eye. The mainstream people, the people that weren't neurodivergent, aren't even batting an eye.
They're just okay,
Yeah, they're like, "Oh yeah, that was great, man. Really
really
cool."
good. Yeah.
There wasn't like, "Good for you, autistic person. Way
Where
to
they have
go."
to, where
What?
they're like, "Oh, you were so good," and this and that, and it's like, "Oh God, that was terrible." But like, no, it was generally they treated them like any other person. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I'm not used to that either, because I was the kid that had to go to the resource room, and I'm hanging around neurodivergent people, people, that have Down syndrome, and people with headgear. And I'm like, they stuck me in here because they didn't know what else to do with me. No one's really talking about ADHD. I'm Gen X. Like, they didn't, in the 80s and stuff, when I was diagnosed with a learning disability, they didn't mention anything about ADHD. They just tried to, give us like Ritalin. And my mom said, "No, just like, hell no, you're not putting my kids on that sort of thing." So, you know, or anything like that. Um, and so I'm kind of like, these are my peeps, but now we're rocking out and they are killing it. They're absolutely killing it. And I'm like, wow, I really want to work with these people. So I'm still doing my thing. And at this point, it's my name on the lease at this place. And now people that like the psychotherapist and stuff like that saw it as like, they want to expand their building, their thing. And I'm also battling this yoga woman who's like trying to overtake the whole building, and she just buy, because at yoga you can print your own money. She wasn't happy I was there. So here comes a little bit of a smear campaign that already started with this crack addict woman that now opened a yoga studio, who's already starting a smear campaign because they didn't want me to succeed. I'm a new guy and I'm overtaking this building, and it's getting real loud, especially now with some neurodivergent people in a yoga place and also in a psychotherapist place who wants me out.
Mm.
So I get a call a few weeks later after some of these um, workshops go out, and I get a call from Mohawk College, and it's a woman that I actually knew from Sault Ste. Marie long time ago, and we grew up together, kind of, going to high school, and she was like, I work at Mohawk College, and I work with the CICE program, so people with neurodivergent disabilities and stuff like that. They have programs, right? Work placement as well as training, but they're not allowed to go in the broadcast booth or learn voice acting or anything, filmmaking, anything like that. They're shifted into their own program. And so now they're trying to integrate them, and they give them jobs, but they don't, they'll train them and then they fire them and let them go. And hopefully they'll build a resume. But, they're looking at either working, stocking shelves at the dollar store, or working in some cafe that's a co-op, bossing dishes, and they're like, this is not a good thing. But they all said that they want to take a workshop, a training thing with you, because some of them have taken your workshops. Can you put together an 8-week course? And I was like, yeah. So we did a thing where we made it, I called it the Freedom Forgers, um, uh, the Freedom Forgers program. And it was for people that were neurodivergent and wanted to do exactly what they said. I've always wanted to be a voice actor. I want to do it. I was like, freedom, find your freedom, unlock your throat chakra, use your voice, your freedom, forge for it, because I was in Hamilton too. It's a steel mill working town. So Freedom Forgers, because the company we had was called Infinity Forge. So always make things. And so I said, sure, we'll do it. And then after the first day, even the people at the, their workers, the EAs that were working with them were just like, I've never seen them like this. I didn't know they can do this. Da, da, da. And I showed them, they were able to describe what their hero looks like. And my friend, who is an animator, started drawing them like a police forensic, going, yeah, what else, and they draw it, and then they'd have a copy of it, and then they would come into the booth, and I get them to describe their hero. Then I brought them to another thing where I played it on a speaker. They heard their voice. They never sat, were in front of a microphone before. They're hearing themselves, and then they're reenacting it. I'm taking pictures. Then I'm running it through iMovie, and I made like a documentary with them describing their hero. This goes back to the schools. This goes, to the education system. Like, look what this guy's doing. He's not just an art therapist. He's a famous like voice actor. And like, look what he's doing with these people. And it starts blowing up. And then I get contacted by Passport Funding, right? That does this, and go, we want, because I folded. I ended up leaving that studio, and all of the backstabbing, all of the slander, all of the everything that started there, right? That started there. And I moved because Passport Funding says, we need you to keep this thing going, because the stuff, it's split between 50% for recreation, 50% for education. But the government, Doug Ford, our premier for Ontario, was starting to take away programming so that the money, whatever's not spent, goes back. So they said, we will approve you. So you've got to do this. So I gathered a handful of people, and then I went, from the Freedom Forgers thing, and I started up a whole new program with them. And I found a building on the other side of town, and we started the Freedom Forgers program. And that, my friends, is in 2019, right? Because I started the other place in 2018.
Right.
In 2019, I start this new thing, and then my father dies.
Oh.
Literally the month that I move into that new space, and I'm going to start a thing. And I've been through hell and back, and I'll touch on that, because that little pocket of time where we started right there with the slander and the people out to take me out and take out my reputation, started there. And we're going to get to that after, because It's the Freedom Forgers program that I started at the other place, at the other studio. And then the first weeks we get in there, my dad dies.
My God. Like it was like it seemed like things were going too good, you know? Like
Well, yeah, I was like, things are on the up because I just went through hell back at this place, battling these people,
dug yourself out of the hole and
dug
then
myself out of and found purpose because now, this government funded program was like, you have to help, like, you got to keep this going on. So I was like, okay, let's go. And I started it with my friend Stephanie Yelovich, who I met, and I said, I need help doing this. So she agreed to help me out. And we moved into that little place and started with a handful of people. And then my dad dies. Then I become like, and that's a whole story there. So now I've got no parents, and I'm like, wow, what a feeling. I'm out there on the edge. Now I'm the head of my family.
yep, like you
I'm the
are
head of my family.
literally like you're carrying the
Literally.
legacy now.
Yeah. And I'm all like, I'm scared. I'm lost. But don't worry. A year after that, we head into a pandemic, and then everybody else's world gets turned upside down. And I'm like, and everyone got out of my way. And I was able, and then my life took a different direction because not only am I doing this Freedom Forgers program, but now I've had to turn my venue, my studio, into a recording studio. And then all of a sudden, things took a big shift. It's a big story. But out of it all, my voice acting clientele starts to build because now people need studios built. I knew this day would come where everyone would be recording from home, because what happened was when the pandemic hit and we were going to go on lockdown, the whole world was going to go on lockdown. Everybody had to pull their advertisements off the radio and issue what was called a COVID-19 response to what was happening. So you couldn't have this weekend at the Brick. It was like, nope, you pull that off. And, the Brick had to go, we're shutting down.
Yeah.
Everyone had to
Everything
do that. But here's the thing. They couldn't get to the actors. The actors couldn't go to the studios. They were shut down. So who did they turn to? All the non-union people that had microphones and knew how to do it. And they wanted frontline workers sounding, which was women, and it wasn't necessarily Caucasian. Do you know what I mean? And so now the sound went from this, because they did an issue, and they did a bulletin. They said, even all actors, if you are on a show, if you are do commercials, if you are a spokesman or you do voice work, you will have to do it from home. Your production will call you. They will get you a microphone, or here's a list. And everyone had to make studios. And I was like, I'm making studios for everyone, all my clients and other people. And that held me out through that. That became another income, but also the sound changed on forever. It went from this. You and a friend can enjoy 2 blueberry muffins for $1.99 at Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons. Always got time for Tim Hortons. To this. We here at Tim Hortons care. We cared before, and we'll care again. Because you've had time for Tim Hortons. We've got time for you. And it sounded like somebody who had never really been in front of a microphone before. There was no plasticity to it. There was nothing. It was so authentic. And you could detect an accent. And it wasn't white. And I was like, here we go. I was like, this is going to change everything, because all of these non-union people are doing union things now. And because they know how to use it. And I remember telling ACTRA that if you're not careful, because there's this non-union union war, if you're not careful, you're going to have an IATSE NABET situation on your hands. And for those people that don't know what IATSE and NABET are, IATSE is the Teamsters. They are the technical side of production, and that is their union. And they have a thing called seniority, that if you are this person, you get there, you get first right of refusal. But there was so much work but all these people that had technical stuff were trying to get on the union stuff instead of working the non-union stuff. But there was so much non-union work happening, and the prices were the same, that these people said, fuck it. They started up their own other union. And then IATSE's like, whoa, you can be part of both now. And they're like, screw you,
Yeah.
whatever. And then, so they start up a union. And I was like, if you're not careful, ACTRA, you're going to have an IATSE NABET situation on your hands here. They're getting real smart. They know what to do. And I go, there will come a day. I didn't think the Civil War, I didn't think a pandemic would prove my theory right, but it did. And I was way ahead of it
Take
by
some good out of
teaching
the bad, you know?
because at the time too, when I switched agents with my mom passing and everything, I switched agents, and I just wanted to make a different thing, because I'd also taken some time off. And when I joined my new agency, the the voice um the voice the head of voice there, was like, Christian, we're really glad that you're here. This is great, but the dude is dead. And I was like, what do you mean the dude's dead? I'm the dude. It's what I do. And then she hands me a stack of breakdowns that said, looking for a Christian Potenza type, think Christian Potenza. And it had links to my YouTube channel or something, or some reference. I was like, I'm a type? I didn't like, I had no concept.
That's
And
good, though. That's a
also,
good thing.
it is. But the thing is, I had taken a year or two off. And I remember people saying, hey, I heard your new commercial. I heard you da da da. Are you sure that's not you? I was like, I'm positive that's not me. Even there's some things on my IMDb that I'm like, I didn't do that, but they attached my name anyway. So it looks good for them. Right. So anyways, I do this. I join them, and I'm looking at these things, and she goes, that time that you spent off, well, something was missing. So they replaced it. They tried to replace that sound. And also you were getting long in you're getting older. So it's kind of like, so the dude's dead. So that's when she was like, you got to get yourself a USB microphone, and you have to start recording at home and doing stuff. And that's when I realized that I wasn't speaking authentically. I was talking like Chris McLean.
Right.
I was talking like Jude, and that was my regular speech. And in trying to find my new voice, and I won't go into it here, but it was a shocking hard time, because I'm practicing, I'm trying to get rehearsing, I'm trying to get this new demo, because I never had a demo I had to make before, because I was always working.
Yeah.
Now I had to change my sound. And then I'm trying, and I'm not doing it. I'm kind of procrastinating because I don't understand it. And I'm being all like, oh, I don't know. And then she's like, look, if you don't get me something soon, because I had wasted a lot of time, go, yeah. And I just sort of like, maybe if I hide under this pile of coats, it'll all work out for me. And so there was one point where I was getting scared, because she was like, if you don't hand me something, I'm just gonna have to take you off the roster, because I can't sell you out there. I can't represent you. I can't have nothing to shop. And I was like, okay. And I kept trying and trying, and I kept failing, and I was just getting frustrated. And then I just remember going, there was this one ad for FedEx, and I was like going, because she was like, the dude's dead. And I was looking at it, I was like, and it started off by going, well, it's not late, but the boss still wants to see you. I was like, no, that's not it. That's not it.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, it's not late, but the boss still wants to see you. I was like, oh my God, why is this? Why can't I sound normal? Because
Yeah.
muscle memory and shit that's in front of the microphone, or just like fucking 10 years of doing the same thing and nothing else, because that's all they asked me to do. They kept doing it. I kept doing it. But now it's like, I can't do it. And I'm just like, and I'm choking. And then I just go, fuck it. If I'm not buying it, they're not buying it. And I walked away. I just walked away. I given up, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot to turn it off. So then I was like, I pressed stop, and then I listened to it, and I was like, I sped up to the part, and I could hear it. I could hear it go, well, it's not late, but the boss still, and I was like, oh, fuck. Well, it's not late, but the, and then I was like, well, it's not. I was like, fuck. And then I heard
all you could hear.
Yeah. And then I heard it. Fuck it. If I'm not buying it, they're not buying it. I'm over. I'm done. And it was at that point that I heard what my voice really sounded like. And it was like it was like a shockwave that went off, and it got real quiet. And I was expecting something to come back, like an aftershock. Nothing
Right.
came. And then all of a sudden, like when you get sick and you're going to throw up, and you can feel it going, oh no, oh no.
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh
And
shit.
you're
Oh
all like,
shit.
don't move, don't move. It was like that, but it was like all emotion. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening? And next thing I know, I hit the ground because I see my life in flashes,
Right. Yeah.
my whole life in just flashes of me talking and doing stuff. It's like flash, 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 flash of me acting and talking like not me at all, acting like these cartoons, acting like, these alter egos, these things, basically lying to everybody, putting on a show for years. And then my daughter's face comes in my eyes, in my vision. And I'm like, I've been lying to my daughter. I've been not representing myself, and everything makes, and I crashed the ground, and I was crying, and I had a release, and I was like, blah, 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 and I'm just like, oh. And then I'm like, okay, so I remember going, okay, I'm going to do it now. I feel better, but I'm shaky. So I went and boiled some tea, put the kettle on, literally. And then I came, and I remember it was too hot, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. And then I pressed record, and I went, well, it's not late, but the boss still wants to see you.
That the money shot.
And there it is. I had to literally let old self die. I had to perform spiritual and vocal Harry Carey. I had to exercise a whole other part of me and just acknowledge that that wasn't me, and you made a mistake,
Right.
in thinking that this was you, and like, wow. And it was such a transformational thing. And then I was like, I unlocked it. Because I went from this. So my friend gave me 2 tickets to so my friend gave me 2 tickets to the game. So I'm going to bring this person, and we're going to have the best time ever. Budweiser. To this. Well, my buddy gave me 2 tickets to the game, but I remembered that I told my wife that I would finish the deck. So I gave the tickets to her, and I said, when you come back, we'll have a drink. We'll have a celebratory drink on your new deck, Budweiser. It's always a party, and I did this voice instead of, hey, man, dude, pushing, blah, 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 blah. And that's when, after that's when I started teaching people how to unlock and to unlock your throat chakra so you can be free. And I made it so neurodivergent people can follow an algorithm like cheat codes, and it's based on symbols,
Right.
sacred geometry and sacred numerology. I have all my teaching totems on my arms so I can teach from wherever I'm at. And just like the indigenous ancestors of ours that always told things through speech, right? Before we had writing, fairy tales were taught, told through speech to guide the moral compass and strengthen the moral fiber in these lessons, right?
Yeah.
So I started teaching the same way. If we're doing voice and data, but we're recording it. And that's that unlock, and that freedom, the freedom forgers thing that I made simple for them works for everybody. Everybody's on somewhere on the spectrum. Everybody's got some sort of learning disability, right? And it's, and so this works for everybody. And now this is catching on. Now I'm teaching at colleges and universities. I am teaching with neurodivergent people. And there was even a documentary made about us called Forging New Acts that you saw.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good.
And that's where my life took a turn, right at this transition of, once again, starting up something, starting a community, starting a scene, and then having controversy around it, and I was like, I up and moved and da 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 da. And now, and that's why I'm going to talk about it after. I want you to meet the freedom forgers and see what my life is, and talk to them, and what the plans are that we have. Because for 4 or 5 years in the background, while a whole bunch of other stuff was going on, I wasn't even there for it. I disappeared.
Yep.
I actually disappeared, and I was over with the Freedom Forgers, a whole new universe. And now, because all these things are going to happen with them, we produced a Christmas album. We have a documentary made about us. They now have agents, and will be having their own projects. We are pitching a couple of cartoons, mainstream cartoons, because you see, back in 2017 or 18, Cartoon Network realized something that I knew as well, is that most of the people, most of their fans or most of their clientele, their audience for Cartoon Network is on the spectrum. So they hired Eugene Levy to be the spokesman for autism.
The great
And
Eugene Levy.
they made an announcement saying, we are going to make programming for people on the spectrum. And I'm just like, I'm making content for people on the spectrum by people on the spectrum. What's up? And now we're seeing there's a Broadway show right now with people, six or seven or 6 or 8 neurodivergent people on a Broadway musical. There's a show called Love on the Spectrum. And even in the breakdowns now, they're looking for non-communicative autistic people, because everyone, if the character is black, that character has to be black, East Indian, Asian, indigenous, handicapped, disabled, whatever your terms and your pronouns are. It has to be that person. I can't even do this voice as a character because I don't identify as a gay man, right? So now they want inclusion. So now I'm sitting on all this opportunity and to create original content and be free. And this is all happening. And this is the Freedom Forgers program. And that's where we're at now. And I want to touch on some stuff that happened, during that time. But right now, I'd like for you to meet some of the Freedom Forgers, and we'll talk about what's going on now. And then after we meet them, then we're going to talk about all the drama and
we're gonna
what
put
happened.
the tea,
We're going to have what happened with Total Drama, right? Because it all circles back. It is an amazing story that now needs to be told. Because I had walked away. I had just let all this happen because there's so much not truth happening. So why even get involved? And also, it's the universe is working this out. So
exactly.
I just remember myself working with the Freedom Forgers and the community and schools and foundations and a whole new clientele. But yeah, I think people want to know about that. But let's meet the Freedom Forgers and talk about what's happening and about everything that's good in the world, right? And
Absolutely.
then we'll meet them, and then we'll tie it all together and get to those questions that you want to know what happened,
the burning
what's happening.
questions.
The burning questions. I'll answer them all because I just wanted to give you the storyline of all the things leading up to that are all mixed in. And we all have a frame of reference when we mention COVID, because we, in the lockdown and how much it changed all of our lives. Everyone's life was changed. It's just that mine is public for some reason when I wasn't even there, but things were happening and people were making it public. And there's so many untruths and deception and stuff because there was an agenda and there was massive fallout. And the thing is, what they had planned these people to do didn't work. And now 4 years later, and with all this stuff happening, there's a reason why I'm not on Total Drama. There's several reasons why there's somebody else voicing it. And I'm going to tell you what happened from my point of view, and tell you about some other people who have witnessed what had happened, because now there's nothing left to do but look at what happened and make people accountable. You know what I mean? And that's where it is. And the thing is, I've moved on and I'm super happy. So none of this really affects. And that's why, when you reached out to me to do an interview, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'd like to tell the story
Enough
because
time has passed, you know.
even I want to know what the fuck happened, you know,
As am I.
because yeah, and I'm piecing it all together here. So, but really right now, I want you to meet my friends, and I want you to meet um the reason why all these other things happened. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And the reason why I'm no longer associated with that, because I'm over here, you know, with these people and these things that nobody else knows what I'm doing. I want to introduce those to you and go, oh, well, I
This is
don't
where he's
blame you
been.
for I
Yes,
don't
like
blame you for leaving. Like, that's
I should have
awesome.
came with you.
Yeah, exactly. Because the old world had to crumble and down. It was broken, it was wrong. And that was just a pure example of that, you know?
Right.
And now there's a whole new era. And it's really exciting. But man, yeah, you're gonna like that. You're gonna like that story. But thank you for letting me just paint the picture up until what happened. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
absolutely.
What I went through, because no one really asks me how I'm doing. It's
Yes,
more
and you're
just
doing
about,
great. You're happy, right?
yeah, but no one really asks. They're more, you know, when people call me, it's like, hey, I just like I want to get into voice acting. It's all about them. Most of the time, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's great.
But
But
they're like, are
nobody,
you happy at the end of the day? You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah,
what nobody asks. But I'm
yeah.
so glad to know that you are, you know?
You know, some people don't even know that I'm the oldest of three boys, that I have a family. Some people are like, yeah, you have, they're like, you know, it's funny you mentioned parents. I don't picture you with parents. I just picture you like you just appeared here. And you know, like
Literally.
you just landed here. Like I don't, you're one of those people. And I get that a lot. And I was like, well, you know, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But like, you know, we all have our own beliefs, but like I get what you mean. I get what you mean. But you know, it kind of after a while, it's like, do people think I'm an alien? Do people like, because there's a lot of things
You got to
floating
question
around
what people are
with
thinking, you know?
what people think about me, but nobody ever asked me what I think about them or what even happened. You know what I mean? They just go with it. And in this world of cancel culture, it's kind of funny, you know, how things go, but like how things turn around. Karma knows where you live.
Yeah,
What is done in
exactly.
the dark always comes to the light. And that's why I was like, I was waiting. But the thing was, I wasn't even preoccupied with that shit. I'm over here working and just, I was just like, it's gone. And getting off of social media was the best thing I ever did. I was like, oh my God, I'm human again. I
Yeah, felt so good,
actually am
eh?
human. Yeah, dude, it was so cleansing. Even the times where I had to just like still maintain. So I opened up an account just for like, you know, keeping in
Just
touch
to
with
see what's
people
up with
because
people, you know?
yeah, but I'm not even looking. It was just to communicate. It was through Messenger, but you'd have to get on first to see the page and see if there was any messages and who was like, nope, no, refuse that. But even as soon as I get on, just the anxiety. And that's because of Facebook and these private groups. A lot of the stuff, the slander and the accusations, which are all false, all started on closed Facebook things. And then, you know, people just assume because it's on Facebook, but it was all hidden. Yet it was private groups, but it goes deep, right? And it was all hidden and da da da. But I had people in there giving me the stuff, showing me the videos, taking screenshots because I wasn't allowed, or anybody of my team, talk to my lawyer, talk to the police, talk to, you know, my agent, and they're just like, just lay low.
Right.
And then you're watching all this stuff like with Johnny Depp,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know,
That's a big thing,
5
right?
years later, and it comes out that he was like, yep. And I was all like, huh, huh. I really related to that whole thing
The
because I
Canadian
went
Johnny Depp,
quiet for 4 years because I
right?
was told by the police, by my lawyer, because I couldn't afford a $30,000 cease and desist. And they knew that because they were hacking into my bank accounts. I was going, you know what? But I'm getting ahead of
Yes,
myself
I
here.
was going to say, I said, we are jumping way ahead.
So, guys, just this is all coming up. This is all coming up. But right now, I want you to meet my family. I want you to meet my friends. I want you to meet the reason why I get up every day to do this awesome work with some of the most talented people. Like we've produced a Christmas album that just happened. We're right now we're producing from the studio. We're producing a Valentine's Day album, and then original art, you know, sound original albums and music in the summer, and many more things. But like these people have trained hard for 3 years, and they have they have a demo tape, they have on camera, they have an electronic press kit, an EPK, they've got an agent. They have more than the average actor out there trying to make it.
Right.
And they're all
Exactly.
set up. And now the people want to see them. And now we're coming out, because while the
Coming in
world
hot.
was being them, we were over here training and doing stuff. And now we're out there. And I mean, you saw the film.
Yes, absolutely loved it.
And
Love it.
and when they just said, I want to do this, and but no one would let me. And I was like, all right, kids, you don't have to tell me twice. I know exactly what that's like. So let's do this. And I made a commitment, and I went to work with them, and now we're doing it. And I want to thank you for letting me introduce my family, my coworkers, my teammates, on this, because this is all part of the narrative, and this thing's about to blow up. And I hope that if there's somebody watching and listening to this, and you're on the spectrum or you have a disability, that you please reach out, and we will make this available, because you can get some training and you can follow your path to your dreams, and it's attainable.
And work with the best of the best.
Work with the best of the best. Because we have people like Veronica Taylor that she saw them perform at London Comic-Con. I got them a gig. I was like, I'm going to do conventions, but I'm only doing it with the Freedom Forgers now.
Right.
If those people still want to see me, if, those other big conventions that used to call me, go, please come down. You know what? They're coming on now. Are you seeing that?
No, I don't think. Let me just check your view. There we go. There's Shelby. Hello,
Shelby.
There
Shelby,
we go.
Shelby, Lynn, please get off now. Please get off. We're gonna take a break, and then completely leave. Shelby. We're gonna call you in.
There we go. I think she's gone now. Is she?
There we go. Okay.
Awesome.
So as you can see, these people these are the interruptions, because I was like, I sort of last minute, I was like, hey guys, you're going to do a thing. So,
they're just excited.
They're just excited. Right. And herding squirrels. And Lynn Zeleny, the other person from Freedom Forgers, the other half of it. And there's other people involved. The parents board, like you just saw Shelby there.
Right.
Yeah. Her mother, Dr. Sheila Kemp Graham, that you saw in the film. Big champions. You know what? Forget it. Let's just bring them on. So instead of them interrupting, let's just take a little break, and then I'm gonna organize with them, and then we'll start it up again.
Absolutely, guys. We will be right back after this short little break. But until then, we will be back. Just sit back, relax. Don't worry. We're not going anywhere. Go to the bathroom. Do what you got to do. If you're driving and listening to this, pull over. But because the kettle's still boiling as we speak. So stay tuned.
The kettle on.